Have you ever watched your child get adjusted and thought, wait, that's it? You are not the only one that has thought this. So much of healthcare has trained us to measure care by time. So a 60-minute therapy session, a long intake, a long treatment, a long list of things to do at home. So when a parent watches their child receive a gentle chiropractic adjustment that may last less than 2 minutes, it can almost feel too simple. Your brain naturally wonders, well, how could something that quick actually do anything? And honestly, that's a really good question. But the answer changes the way we think about healing, because a neurologically focused chiropractic adjustment is not shorter because it is doing less. It is shorter because the nervous system responds incredibly fast to precise input. And for a child whose nervous system is already overwhelmed, more is not always better. Too much input can overload the very system we're trying to help regulate. So a pediatric adjustment is not about twisting, cracking, forcing, or making something dramatic happen. It is about giving the brain and the body a specific signal at the right time, in the right place, with the right amount of input. Once you understand what is actually happening inside the nervous system during those few moments, amount of time stops becoming the right way to measure impact. So this video is for parents who have watched their child move through therapy after therapy, supplement after supplement, protocol after protocol, and still feel like something foundational is being missed. It is for the parent who has wondered whether a 2-minute adjustment could actually move the needle. So let's walk through what an adjustment actually is, what it's not, why pediatric adjustments are short by design, why frequency matters more than duration, and then how our insight scans help us make the complex nervous system more understandable. Now, most people think they know what a chiropractic adjustment is, but it may not be what you think. A lot of people assume the pop or that crack sound is the adjustment. They think if they hear a sound, it worked. And if they don't hear a sound, maybe nothing happened. But that sound is just simply gas releasing from the joint capsule. It is not the goal, and it is not how we measure whether the adjustment worked. Now, the real power of a neurologically focused chiropractic adjustment is not the sound. It is the signal. When we deliver a gentle, specific adjustment, what we're doing is we're giving the nervous system a precise input. That input activates receptors in the muscles and the joints along the neurospinal system, especially the mechanoreceptors and the proprioceptors that help the brain to understand where the body is, how much tension it is holding, and what areas may be stuck in a stress pattern. And then the muscles along the neurospinal system, they're packed with sensory receptors. They are constantly sending information up to the brain about posture, motion, tone, tension, and safety. So when there is a subluxation, that communication can become distorted. And when we say subluxation, we're just not talking about posture or bone being out of place. Subluxation is a pattern that includes physical misalignment. We've got joint restriction and motion, but the biggest is the neurological interference between the brain and the body. So that means that the body is not communicating as clearly as it should. We often refer to them as traffic jams in your nervous system. Now, the goal of an adjustment is to restore clear communication. So that precise input travels through the spinal cord and reaches areas like the brainstem, the cerebellum, and the prefrontal cortex, giving the brain an updated read on the body's position, tension, and tone. So in other words, the adjustment helps the brain better understand what is happening inside the body so it can respond with more organization and regulation. And for children, this does not require force. Pediatric adjustments are incredibly gentle, specific, and appropriate for each stage of development. The amount of pressure we use with babies and young children, we often compare it to checking the ripeness of an avocado. So it's light, it's intentional, and it's designed for their specific nervous system. One small input can have such a big effect because the nervous system is the master control system of the body. That signal reaches the brainstem, which helps regulate heart rate, breathing, digestion, sleep rhythms, arousal, and the body's stress response. These are the foundational systems running in the background every single minute of the day. That is why an adjustment can impact things that may seem completely unrelated at first. Parents may come in because their child is struggling with sleep or digestion, immune challenges, emotional regulation, sensory overload, or maybe focus, and then they wonder, well, what does the neurospinal system have to do with any of that? And the answer is the nervous system. When the adjustment helps the brain and the body to communicate more clearly, the effects can show up in several different areas. Now, the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic system, they can begin to engage more effectively. So that helps the body to shift out of sympathetic dominance, which is that chronic fight or flight state so many dysregulated kids are stuck in. Now, research continues to show us that adjustments do not just affect the neurospinal system locally. So in a 2016 study published in Neuroplasticity showed that chiropractic adjustments produced measurable changes in prefrontal cortex activity. Now, that's the area of the brain that plays a major role in executive function, attention, decision-making, and autonomic regulation. So this is why children with very different symptoms can sometimes share the same foundational patterns underneath. One child may struggle with constipation, another may struggle with anxiety, another may have sensory meltdowns, poor sleep, immune challenges, or focus issues. And on the surface, those look like separate problems. But actually underneath, many of these kids are dealing with the same exact core issues. A nervous system that is having a hard time regulating. That is why we're not chasing every symptom one by one. What we're doing is we're going to support the system that controls all of them. This also explains why pediatric adjustments are short by design. So a child's nervous system can only process so much input at one time before it becomes completely overwhelmed. So think about it like a computer with so many tabs open. When too many programs are running at once, the whole system slows down, it freezes, or it just crashes. A dysregulated child's nervous system works the very same way. Many kids are already maxed out by school and screens and sensory input and food sensitivities and poor sleep, illness, big emotions, and daily stress. You get the idea. Their nervous system is already using so much energy just to get through the day that there may not be extra processing capacity left. So if we added 30 to 60 minutes of hands-on input, that would not necessarily be more thorough for many kids. It would actually be way too much. A neurologically focused pediatric adjustment is designed to give the right amount of input, not the most amount of input. Often that takes roughly 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Then the brain spends the next 24 to 72 hours doing the deeper work of processing that signal, releasing stuck stress patterns, and reorganizing how the body responds. This is also why frequency matters far more than duration. So the brain changes through something called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity depends on repetition. A single long session is not usually what creates lasting change. Consistent, specific input over time is what helps the brain build a new pattern. There are 168 hours in a week. If a child's adjusted 2 or 3 times, they may only spend around 6 minutes total on the adjusting table. But that does not mean only 6 minutes of healing is happening. The adjustment, I want you to think about it like the catalyst. The brain and the body do the work between the visits. The time between visits matters because life is still happening. Kids are growing. They are getting sick. They are going through growth spurts, school stress, screen time, emotional stress, sensory overload, and all the everyday things that can reload the nervous system. So consistent adjustments help keep the release ahead of the reload. It's not about doing more for the sake of doing more. It's about giving the nervous system enough repetition to create a new pattern before stress pulls it right back into the old one. And because every child's nervous system is different, we don't just guess where to start. That's where we utilize our insight scans. Now, insight scans help us make the invisible visible. They allow us to objectively measure how a child's nervous system is functioning, where stress may be building up, and how well the body is adapting. So heart rate variability, or HRV, this gives us a window into how adaptable the autonomic nervous system is. It helps us to understand vagal tone and whether the body can shift between stress and recovery the way it should. And then the EMG scan looks at how much energy the muscles along the neurospinal system are using, which can show whether a child's nervous system is stuck on the gas pedal or showing signs of fatigue and shutdown. And then the thermal scan looks at patterns of temperature regulation throughout the neurospinal system. This gives us insight into where autonomic dysregulation may be connected. So this matters because two children can walk in with the same exact diagnosis and then have completely different scan patterns. They may both struggle with sleep, constipation, or sensory overload, but their nervous system may be stressed in very different ways. That is why care has to be personalized at the neurological level, not just based on symptoms. The scans help guide the care plan, the technique, the frequency, and the areas of primary subluxation we need to focus on first. We're not guessing, we are measuring. So if your child has been through the protocols, they've been through the supplements, the therapies, and all the things that were supposed to help, but you still feel something deeper is being missed, you might be right. For many kids, the foundation is neurological. And when the nervous system is overwhelmed, stuck in stress mode, or struggling to communicate, the body can have a hard time responding all the support you are already giving it. Now, that does not mean those things are wrong. It simply means that the nervous system may need to be addressed first. That is where neurologically focused chiropractic care comes right in. The right input delivered to the right place at the right frequency can help the brain and the body begin to communicate with more clarity. And when that communication improves, the entire trajectory can begin to shift. Your child does not need more labels. They need answers. They need someone willing to look at the foundation. So at E320 Chiropractic, we use insight scans to make the complex nervous system understandable and visible. So we can see where stress is being held, how well your child is adapting, and what kind of care their body actually needs. If you're ready to stop guessing and start looking deeper, click the link in our bio. You can send us a direct message, or you can schedule directly with the E320 Chiropractic team today. Let's help your child's nervous system move toward better regulation and clearer communication.